This is the title: Resolution Condemning President Trump's Racist Comments Directed at Members of Congress. Whereas the founders conceived America as a haven of refuge for people fleeing from religious and political persecution, and Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison all emphasized that the nation gained as it attracted new people in search of freedom and livelihood for their families. Whereas the Declaration of Independence defined America as a covenant based on equality, the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and government by the consent of the people. Whereas Benjamin Franklin said at the Constitutional Convention, when foreigners, after looking about for some other country in which they can obtain more happiness, give a preference to ours, it is a proof of attachment which ought to excite our confidence and affection. Whereas President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, remember always that all of us, and you and I especially, are descended from immigrants and revolutionists. Whereas immigration of people from all over the earth has defined every stage of American history and propelled our social, economic, political, scientific, cultural, artistic, and technological progress as a people, and all Americans, except for the descendants of Native people and enslaved African Americans, are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. Whereas the commitment to immigration and asylum has been not a partisan cause, but a powerful national value that has infused the work of many presidents. Whereas American patriotism is defined not by race or ethnicity, but by devotion to constitutional ideals of equality, liberty, inclusion, and democracy, and by service to our communities and struggle for the common good. Whereas President John F. Kennedy, whose family came to the U.S. from Ireland, stated in his 1958 book, A Nation of Immigrants, that the contribution of immigrants can be seen in every aspect of our national life. We see it in religion, in politics, in business, in the arts, and education, even in athletics and entertainment. There's no part of our nation that has not been touched by our immigrant background. Everywhere immigrants have enriched and strengthened the fabric. Everywhere immigrants have enriched and strengthened the fabric of American life. Whereas President Ronald Reagan, in his last speech as president, conveyed an observation about a country which I love. Whereas President Reagan observed, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. And it is the Statue of Liberty and its values that give us our great and special place in the world. Whereas other countries may seek to compete with us, but in one vital area, as a beacon of freedom and opportunity that draws the people of the world, no country on earth comes close. Where it is the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed through the 21st century and beyond, and is part of the magical, intoxicating power of America. Whereas this is one of the most important sources of America's greatness. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength from every country and every corner of the world, and by doing so, we continuously renew and enrich our nation. Whereas thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. Whereas this openness is vital to our future as a nation, and if we ever closed the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost. And whereas President Donald Trump's racist comments legitimized fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color, now therefore be it resolved that the House of Representatives believes that immigrants and their descendants have made America stronger, and that those who take the oath of citizenship are every bit as American as those whose families have lived in the U.S. for many generations. The House of Representatives is committed to keeping America open to those lawfully seeking refuge and asylum from violence and oppression, and those who are willing to work hard to live the American dream, no matter their race, ethnicity, faith, or country of origin. And the House of Representatives strongly condemns President Donald Trump's racist comments that have legitimized and increased fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color by saying that our fellow Americans who are immigrants and those who may look to the president like immigrants should go back to other countries, by referring to immigrants and asylum seekers as invaders, and by saying that members of Congress who are immigrants or those of our colleagues who are wrongly assumed to be immigrants do not belong in Congress or in the United States of America. That resolution this evening condemning the president's racist tweets was passed in the House of Representatives. The vote was 240 to 187. The resolution received the votes of just 4 Republican members of Congress, as well as recently exiled Republican turned independent Justin Amash. The vote was gavelled in just before 7 o'clock this evening, following some impassioned speeches from Democrats on the House floor.
Telling 4 members of this body to go home because of where you believe they are from is racist. There is racism coming out of the White House.
I know racism when I see it. I know racism when I feel it. And at the highest level of government, there's no room for racism.
They are just as American as any one of us, and it's shameful that the leader of our country would seek to encourage them for political gain.
It's not the first time I've heard "go back to your own country," but it is the first time I have heard it coming from the White House.
After the president's tweets, the neo-Nazi Daily Stormer website gloated that this is the kind of white nationalism we voted for. Now we have to decide, is this the kind of politics that we want in our country?
The lead author of tonight's resolution condemning the president for his racist remarks is a Democrat who was not born in this country, although he is not one of the Democrats who was targeted by the White House for it. He's the man who you saw there speaking at the end there, New Jersey Congressman Tom Malinowski. He joins us next. House of Representatives tonight voted to pass a resolution condemning President Trump, specifically condemning President Trump's racist comments directed at members of Congress. Joining us now is the author of this resolution that has passed the House tonight, New Jersey Congressman Tom Malinowski. Sir, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate you making time.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for reading the resolution. That's the first dramatic reading I've heard.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a bad actor, and so it wasn't as dramatic as it should have been.
It was good.
Well, it's an eloquent piece of work, and I know you're the lead author of this resolution. I have to ask about your thought process that went into asking the House to weigh in on something like this formally, and why you structured this the way you did.
I saw the tweets with everybody else this weekend, and as you mentioned, unlike 3 of the 4 congresswomen that Trump attacked, I was actually born in a foreign country. I'm an immigrant. I took that oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States for the first time when I was 10 years old, getting sworn in to be a citizen of the United States 5 years after my mom brought me here from Poland. And so I thought, you know, I don't necessarily share the same politics as AOC or Congresswoman Tlaib or Omar, but if you're going to go after my fellow members of Congress because of where they are from or appear to be from or how they look, you're going to have to go through me. And so I offered this resolution, and I'm glad the House passed it today. We said that we are better than this. The president doesn't speak for the country. We do.
I know there was a lot of consternation in the House in the debate over this resolution about the use of the word racist. It's in the title of the resolution, condemning President Trump's racist comments directed at members of Congress. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to deal with a real tempest today when she used that word to describe the president's statements as well. There was a big controversy over whether or not she was allowed to describe the president's remarks that way. Did you struggle at all with whether or not to include that specific word, expecting that it would be as much of a lightning rod as it was?
Well, it's hard to avoid. Obviously, they were racist. These words that people who are immigrants or who look like immigrants should go back to other countries, that's classic racism that's been thrown a generation after generation of new arrivals to America, whether they're Irish or Polish or Italian or Indian or Muslim or Jewish. So I didn't struggle with it intellectually. It turns out there's an arcane House rule that says you can't accuse the president of being racist in a speech on the floor. A little hard to defend a resolution condemning his racist remarks if you can't refer to them. So we had this was a distraction because some of the Republicans, I think, wanted us to be talking about this and not the main issue, which is that the most powerful person in this country is saying things that we teach our children to be wrong.
You did get a handful of Republican votes. You got 4 Republican members joining all the Democrats in this vote today, plus Justin Amash, who recently left the Republican Party. Did you expect more than that? Obviously, it was interesting to see the president sort of whipping Republicans to not side with Democrats on this, to not vote in favor of this resolution. That signaled to me, at least, that the president cared about this outcome. I wonder what your expectations were.
Of course he cares. He wants us to think he doesn't, but of course he does. Of course I hope for Republican votes, and you noticed, I'm sure, when you read the resolution, half of it was from Ronald Reagan. And what I really we wanted was for every member of Congress, especially my Republican colleagues, to choose between Reagan's open, hopeful, confident vision of America and President Trump's fearful vision. And, you know, I'll take the 4 plus Justin Amash, who chose Reagan. We will build on that, and the rest will have to answer to their conscience.
New Jersey Congressman Tom Malinowski, who's in Congress now as the latest iteration of his long career in public service. Sir, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate you making time.
Thank you so much.